All right, YouTube. We're back with another 57 Chevy Patina truck video. This time we are looking at the front hub disassembly. So I could strip it down. I can sandblast the backing plates. I can install new wheel cylinders and new front brake hoses. Check those out. Bought from the truck and car shop out in Orange, California. Great place to deal with. A certain amount of purchase power will give you free shipping, even on some of the heavier stuff, which is pretty surprising. But missed the cutoff on this one because I just want to get this bad boy driving again in time for summer. So you saw the baby monitor in the beginning. This was not really a timed event, but if I hear the child, I had to go, but I was pretty good. Um, the tricky part with this one is, as I am narrating this for a daunting 8 to 10 minutes, trying to think back to when I did this job a couple of weeks ago. But the issue that I found with all this wasn't time. Making the video is the difficult part. So the the issue was, sorry, I just paused there. My computer's trying to keep up with the internet. I did this all in about 22 minutes, and I did this half rate or twice rate so you could see it. But first was getting a small flathead screwdriver to remove the cotter pin. I'm sorry, the dust cap for the front brake assembly. Followed by the cotter pin. I actually have a cotter pin puller, which makes that job a heck of a lot easier. Followed by a small little cap, and then the axle nut itself. So with that coming off, you can pretty much see at this point, then it was just a matter of a large washer. And once that large washer is removed, the entire brake drum assembly can be pulled off. And I always leave the lug nuts on there for storage. So with a fresh towel down, you're going to be able to see some of the parts that I remove. But I just realized I zoomed in 2 times on this as well because you would see a lot of my skin because I didn't wear a belt that day. So, as simple as that, I wiped the front spindle to pull off all the grease so that I can work around it, followed by that little greasy dust shield that you watch the other Shop Teacher D videos, you will see the installation of the fresh seal when I do the tapered roller bearing conversion. So, good time to hit like and subscribe so you can be up to date with all those. So next came the spring tension remover. Pop those springs off for the drum brakes. And then instead of using the special tool for, well, I did. The special tool, which you don't need if you have a thumb and a pointer finger. Sorry if you don't. Um, to remove the shoe hold downs that hold the shoes to the backing plates. Those all get removed, set on the towel. Then it's just pulling the shoes off with the self adjuster in the bottom. And at this point, I am blocking you, but I pull the little pins and I'm doing an inspection behind the rubber boots to see just how bad these are. And they were pretty gnarly. So next to come off was the trying to think back now. I believe I cracked the brake hose loose and the wheel cylinder bolts loose, and it was just going to be a matter of keeping things leaky. So gloves were oily and greasy at this point from the axle, and I believe I got some on my sleeve, so it was just a matter of cleaning it up. But finding the right nuts and bolts, or finding the right, excuse me, sockets was simple enough to remove the wheel cylinder. So simple, 2 bolts is all that holds that on, and then the brake hose itself. Brake hose, when you're replacing, make sure you do your best to use a new copper washer. On one side, the kit actually came with it, and then in shipping or packaging, I lost the other side. It never came with it. I'll be clear with that. So that 30-cent piece at the local hardware store I didn't use, I opted to resurface, sand, and score the existing one, and it worked. So far, no leaks. So cracking those two loose, avoiding my butt crack, I was able to pull it wheel cylinder through. And what I did at this point, I actually learned this from a student. He used a C clamp, and I clamped off that existing brake hose so I wouldn't have massive leakage. Cracked it loose, and now I am freewheeling the wheel cylinder and removing it. So good enough. It's off, and if you look behind that boot, you can see it, or it's not moving too much. It was pretty gnarly in there, and I had leakage. It was, after having done the passenger side, it was imminent failure. There was going to be a brake failure at some point, and I noticed I had some decreased braking ability last summer, so hopefully, 4 new wheel cylinders and hoses all around, 3 hoses, 4 wheel cylinders, have done this well. I also have new shoes on it. I did that last year or the year before. At this point then, I am looking for the bolts because I pull the hose at a different point in time to pull the backing plate from the spindle. So these are pretty big, tough ones. The passenger side came apart a heck of a lot easier than the driver's side. I'll be completely honest with you there. This one I had an issue with the spacer, and you'll see I leave those on near the end. So cracking all 4 of those loose. There were different sizes from the top 2 versus the lower 2 or the bottom 2, but you'll see I'm just busting everything loose with a breaker bar because this is some pretty heavy duty stuff, some pretty heavy duty axles. I'm sorry, bolts and nuts. I am slightly distracted right now. Um, and at this point, I'm just ratcheting it loose and unthreading it all. But keep in mind, some are going to go easier than others. And the only cheating I did in this video, again, is using Aerocoil, spraying them on the back nuts before. So the bolt, they're all grade 8s. They go through the backing plate, through a spacer to space the backing plate to the spindle. And it's all in good shape. So at this point, I'm just waiting, waiting until I get out of the way. You can see it again. I'm texting. This is horrible. But we're 7 minutes in, and there's no way I'm going to do a second take of this. So, getting those bolts done. Keep in mind, at this point, I believe I may have been disconnected from the steering box. So, that hub moved quite freely. And I was fighting one very stuck bolt at this point. So, you can use a blue torch. And if you know what that means, you've dealt with some hell. But remember, one rusty, that's what I was trying to avoid right there. One rusty nut and bolt. Um, that's how far away you are from a 3-day ordeal with some jobs. So, um, this point, I think I was stretching my back, getting it ready, possibly a glove change, and getting back in there to get the remaining bolts and hardware out. So, as I stall further, we're going to watch as I get those top 2 bolts. And if I were telling the truth, well, I am. The passenger side, I want to say I had a part in like 12 or 13 minutes. At this point, I went around to the other side, I believe, to check washer placement on the other side of the vehicle and also get some other rags and some fresh gloves. So, and I may have left some tools over there. So here we go. Hopefully, I'm about to get this off. If I were better at video editing and better at YouTubing, well, I'm not that great, but um, I would be putting some dramatic background music in here right now. And I would play some off my phone at this moment, but I don't want to get sued. So again, Aerocoil, best nut busting, oil bolt and nut penetrating stuff on the planet to be able to get these axle nuts and spindle nuts and backing plate bolts beaten off of this car. So I don't know how much longer I could stall. Got one, putting the breaker bar back on. We're doing this again. And I want to say it was the upper left bolt at this point, or was it the bottom left? Either way, one of them, all the other nuts were off, and I was just fighting this now. And once it was removed, it's fairly easy. I had a dynamic, awesome student. We'll just call him RT. Can't say his name for legal reasons and many other. But he sandblasted both of the backing plates for me for this truck. And I did horrendous paint jobs then, kind of disgracing his work on the remaining pieces, and then put it all back together with a semi-gloss back on the backing plate. So there will be another video of the reassembly, which will wrap it all up. And This one will slowly die and finish as I have the continuing and ongoing struggle with the removal of those tricky bolts. So um, I fought it, I fought it, I fought it. Eventually, it did overcome. Again, while I'm struggling, great time to hit that like or subscribe to my channel to see more Shop Teacher D videos and content that I'm going to do my best to get out probably on a 2 week cycle. So here we go, shaking it off. Finally got it, and that's it. Cleaned hub. Then it was just a matter of inspecting kingpins, which were in phenomenal shape. And then off camera, I will be re-greasing the whole assembly. And since there was zero play, I had no intentions of rebuilding kingpins. So keep me going. Don't forget, click like and subscribe.